Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm Nur Fatima as the second speaker from Group 10. Today, I want to explain about the material Pappus. The first material is the mathematical collection of Pappus. Pappus, born about 290 Alexandria, Egypt, and died about 350. Our knowledge of Pappus' life is almost nil. There appear in the literature one or two references to that for Pappus' life which must be wrong. There is a reference in the Suda lexicon, a work of a 10th century Greek lexicographer, which states that Pappus was a contemporary of Theon of Alexandria. Pappus is the last of great Greek geometers, and one of his theorems is cited as the basis of modern projective geometry. He wrote commentaries on Euclid Elements and Ptolemy Almagest. And the next, War of Pappus, the great war on which his reputation rests, is the mathematical collection, originally written in 8 books, of which the Aristide and part of the second are missing. Only one of Pappus' other writings has survived, and that in fragmentary form, namely his commentary on Ptolemy Almagest. We can very well that when Pappus lived, for in his commentary on the Almagest, Pappus referred to an eclipse of the sun that took place in the year 320, and he spoke as though it were an eclipse he had recently seen. Proclus, who died in Athens in 485, quoted Pappus several times in his commentary on the first book of Euclid Elements, so that it is reasonable to infer that Pappus lived in the early half of the 4th century AD. This book is thought to have been written around the year 340. Some estimate the year 325. The first, Book 1 and Book 2. In Book 1 contains a review of arithmetic that is not found, and Book 2 is partly missing, but it is known to contain a discussion of the method of handling large numbers. And the next, Book 3. In Book 3 is divided into 4 parts. The first part, discussion the problem of finding proportional convergences between two specific straight lines. The second part discusses arithmetic contraction, geometry, and harmonic comparisons. The third section contains a collection of geometry paradoxes that Pappus says are derived from the work of Aristotle. No one knows exactly what Aristotle's work. The fourth part contains 5 polyhedra space divided in the form of space. And the next, book 4. In book 4 contains curve shapes included here the spiral of Archimedes and the quadratic of Pappus. At the same time contains method of division into 3 sections and introduction of curve types. There are 3 categories of problem in geometry called plane, solid, and linear. Every problem has its own solution. Do not use straight line patterns to solve field problems. Similarly, space problems cannot be solved by using straight line patterns or fields. In the next book 5, in book 5, begins with how the bee builds its next hexagonal shape. Pappus' discussion of the result is concluded in this book. And the next book 6 and book 7. In book 6 and book 7, summary that books of other mathematicians such as Theodosius, Autolycus, Aristaeus, Euclid, Apollonius, Aristaeus, and Eratosthenes. Book 6 alludes to astronomy and is given the subtitle Little Astronomy, which contains many differences from Ptolemy, Greater Astronomy, Almag's. And Book 7 on the history of mathematics through generalization. Pappus almost discovers the basic principle of analytical geometry, pioneering the generalization of problems related to different types of new types of curve. It is called the Pappus problem, which mentions 3 or 4 lines as Euclid or Apollonius. And the last book is book 8. In book 8 is a mathematical application in the fields of astronomy, optics, and mechanics. The second material is Hypatia, the first woman mathematician. Hypatia of Alexandria was the first woman to contribute to the development of mathematics. Hypatia is the son of a mathematician, philosopher, and head of the Alexandria Museum named Theon. Learning mathematics through the guidance and teaching of his father, Hypatia, his achievement was the become head of the Platonic school in Alexandria around the year 400. Hypatia taught mathematics and philosophy, especially the philosophy of Neoplatonism. Hypatia 370 until 415 was distinguished in mathematics, medicine, and philosophy, and is reported to have written a commentary on the Aristic book of Diapontus Arithmetic, as well as a treatise on Apollonius' conic section. From her father she had obtained a knowledge of the astronomical discoveries of Claudius Ptolemy, and she edited the almanacs of this great astronomer. She was also the unquestioned leader of the new Platonic school of philosophy and took part in the last attempt to oppose the Christian religions. As a living symbol of the old culture, she was destined to be a pawn in struggle for political mastery of Alexandria. And Hypatia lectured at the Museum of Mathematics and Philosophy, and her class attracted many distinguished listeners. Among these was the philosophy genius of Cyril, who was later to become Bishop of Ptolemais. In the letter of Zenius that have come down to us, he always spoke of Hypatia in the highest terms, calling her mother, sister, reverenced teacher, and praising both her learning and her virtue. In spite of support from Zenius and other Christians, the Christian leader regarded Hypatia's new Platonic philosophy as heretical. Her position was further threatened by friendship with Orestes, Roman governor of the city and the only countervailing for Sicily, Bishop of Alexandria. The followers of Cyril spread rumor that Hypatia was drawing large crowds to her lecture hall, where under the guise of scholarship she, she was explaining paganism, and the moreover, her inculcate over Orestes was the only obstacle to reconciliation between the governor and himself. As the returned on day from her classes, Hypatia was waylaid by a mob of religious zealots by sharp oyster sailors, and nearly thrown limb from limb, her remains delivered to the Ames. With the death of Hypatia, the long and glorious history of Greek mathematics was at end. The last material is Roman mathematics, Pappus and Cassiodorus. For those who are interested in tracking development in theoretical mathematics, the Roman period is singular barren of interest. However excellent the Romans may have been in the arts, literature, and law, they showed no disposition to master the Greek signs, let alone to add to them. As the early crowds emerged from the catacombs, people argued less about mathematics and more about salvation. Learning of any kind was deemed useful as it was necessary for the proper understanding of Scripture and the reading of the Cross-Father. The triumph of liberal arts became the accepted format of Christian education, and within the triumph, the study of grammar and rhetoric required far more attention than what was devoted to logic. Contribution to this lack of interest in theoretical study was the fact that acknowledged of the Greek language, in which most of the scientific learning of antiquity remained remained gradually founded in the Latin-speaking West, and perhaps the best known Roman commentator to interest himself in the Greek world then available was Anicius Boetius, circa 475 until 524. Memorable characteristic as the last of the Romans and the aristide of the scholastic, Boethius provided a bridge between antiquity and the Middle Ages. Born into one of the wealthy and illustrious families of senatorial rank, he received the best education to be had in those troubled times. Scholars disagree over where Boethus was educated, some favoring Athens and others Alexandria. As a young man, Boethus entered the Roman administrative system. The Ostrogoth king Theodoric, who had ruled Italy since 493, needed the experience of the old Roman aristocracy in his task of governing. Holding a number of trusted positions, Boethus reached the height of his political power in 522, when he became master of the Office, a post in which he functioned virtually as the king's prime minister. Soon afterward, Boethus filled out the theoretic favor and was accused of treasonable conduct. And the next, Cossadus. Magnus Aurelius Cossadus, circa 480 until 575, a younger friend of Boethus and not so great a scholar, yet made a more substantial contribution to the preservation of the classical heritage. Like Boethus, he was a Roman aristocrat who rose to high position in the government of Theodoric. Upon retiring from public life to this estate at Pappus, Cossadus founded a large monastery with the conscious aim of making it a center of Christian learning and scholarship, the artistic education-oriented monastic house. Thank you, and any question?